Part 28. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 275. Sutingyu moved towards room 206 step by step, like a thief. Qin-Chi blinked, feeling a little confused as to what trouble Big Fish was going to make. He stayed there quietly, watching Sutingyu's every move. Sutingyu approached the door of room 206, only less than 1 meter away. With his back pressed against the wall next to him, a small paw slowly stretched out tentatively, trying to grab the door handle. Just when Sutingyu's little claws were about to touch the door handle. Click sound. The door is open. Sutingyu watched as the doorknob, which was less than a centimeter long, retracted into the door. Wait, retract. Realizing that the door was suddenly opened from inside, Sutingyu quickly retracted his little claws. Inside the door, an angry female voice sounded, "Me Tao. If you know better, hurry up and get a divorce with me. At least we can have a good time together." Outside the door, Sutingyu blinked his big eyes and quickly put his little ears against the wall. "Want to get a divorce?" "Yes, you have to take Yaya away too," came a nonchalant male voice. "Why should I take Yaya away? You are her father. Then you are still Yaya's mother? What? You don't want to take Yaya with you, or are you afraid that the wild man outside you will dislike you?" Sutingyu carefully stretched out his little head and peeked into the door secretly. In the living room of the house, a man and a woman were arguing and bickering. Judging from their age, they were probably about 30 years old. The man was half lying on the sofa, staring at the picture on the TV, but he was mercilessly arguing with the woman. The woman was wearing a well-tailored haute couture outfit, holding a valuable bag in her hand, and had delicate makeup on her face. However, compared to the man's slutty attitude, the woman's eyes seemed to be shooting out of anger, and the plump breasts in front of her were constantly rising and falling with anger. The woman was about to step out of the room with one foot, but her entire mind was focused on the man at the moment, and she didn't notice Sutingyu peeping outside the door. "What kind of wild man? Me Tao, please show respect when you speak. Looking for a pretty boy behind my back, why don't you say yes?" Sutingyu, who was eavesdropping in the corner, heard the scream with gusto. It seems that the family in room 206 is a couple who are about to divorce, and a daughter who is regarded as a drag by both the couple. Judging from the fact that the couple are both about 30 years old, their daughter should not be too old. At this time, Sutingyu felt a shadow pressing down behind him. Then, someone from behind pulled her back with one hand. Because he felt the familiar aura, Sutingyu didn't resist. When he turned around, he saw that it was Qin-Chi. "Somebody is coming." As soon as Qin-Chi finished explaining, other players who originally went into room 205 to look for clues also came out one after another. The door to room 206 is also open. The players who came out soon found that the door of room 206 was open, and the sound of a man and a woman quarreling came from inside. The players were about to go over to see what was going on, when a woman with exquisite makeup walked out of room 206, with lingering anger on her face. "Me Tao. You have 3 days to think it over clearly. Don't let me look down on you." After saying that, the woman left the place on high heels and disappeared at the top of the stairs. Some players went after the woman, while others looked into room 206. Sutingyu chose the latter. The sound from the TV came out, and the man on the sofa didn't seem to be affected by it, and he was still humming a tune. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 276. Because there was a man inside, and he was not unconscious like the drunk in the next room, so no player dared to go in rashly and could only stand outside the door to observe the situation inside. Sutingyu also looked inside, scanning the layout of the room casually. Compared to the drunkard next door, this room is relatively tidy, but apart from having a sense of life, There is nothing wrong with it. By the way, where's the couple's daughter? The couple's quarrel was so fierce that if their daughter were here, there is a high probability that she would be attracted to it. Even if a child is 4 or 5 years old, if his parents are quarreling or even getting divorced, even if they cannot clearly understand why their parents are quarreling, they will still feel it. Then, where is their daughter? Have you witnessed your parents quarrel somewhere? At this time, Sutinyu accidentally glanced at the bedroom door inside, which was slightly open. There seemed to be something blocking it inside the crack. Sutinyu blinked. Just as he was about to take a closer look, the thing disappeared in a flash. Now Sutinyu could only see an empty crack in the door. Hiss. That thing? What is it? With just a brief glance, Sutinyu couldn't see clearly what was hidden in the crack of the door. Was the thing in the crack of the door always there when the couple quarreled just now? What are you looking at? What do you want to do? Maybe the players stayed in the room for too long, and the man inside noticed the clues. When the man turned around and found so many players gathered outside the door, he shouted angrily. After alerting the man, the players could no longer surround him and had no choice but to leave. Let's go, and see other places. Sutinyu and Qin-Chi walked behind all the players, and they were not in a hurry to go to other floors. After no one was around, Sutinyu said, Kikai, there should be a little girl in room 206, but I haven't seen it yet. Qin-Chi frowned. This situation is similar to that in room 205, but there is one person missing. Both of them are children. Is there a connection? Sutinyu speculated. Qin-Chi, rooms 205 and 206 are next to each other. The children from the two families might know each other. All the rooms on the second floor are open, but there is room number 302 on the third floor that has not opened its door. Sutinyu and the other two chose to go down to the first floor. Sutinyu wanted to know, did the woman who left the quarrel really leave Angel apartment? Previously, the door of room 101 on the first floor had not been opened. At this time, the door was wide open. Sutinyu, who came down, saw some players walking around inside. Sutinyu turned around and looked around, but there was no trace of the woman. When Sutinyu caught a glimpse of the young couple, she remembered that they seemed to have followed the woman down, so she walked over and asked, did the woman in room 206 who wanted a divorce leave the apartment? Just now. The female player in the young couple was about to speak, but was stopped by her boyfriend, who looked at Sutinyu warily. Why should we tell you? Sutinyu smiled slightly. Then let's exchange information, is that okay? Then, you say it first. The male player still didn't trust Sutinyu, but he was a little cautious about exchanging information. Okay, let me say it first, Sutinyu said with a kind expression like a good old man, but as a new player, don't think about going back on your word, otherwise. Sutinyu deliberately didn't explain clearly, which frightened both of them. Then, Sutinyu casually threw out a message. It was the male player's turn, and the latter also told the message honestly. The woman in high-end clothing did indeed walk out of the apartment door and disappeared into the mist. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 277. Outside the door, the fog still lingers. Because two players were eliminated as soon as they went out, so that even if some players watched a woman in high-end clothing go out, they did not dare to follow her out. Room 101 on the first floor opened, and Sutinyu and Qin-Chi stepped in. The former caught a glimpse of the TV in the living room. Two young-looking men were sitting cross-legged on the floor, playing games on the TV screen. Holding a game console in both hands. One of them, Sutinyu had the impression, was a male player, but who was the other one? Is he the owner of room 101? Haha, I won, I won. At this time, the strange man jumped up in joy. The male player who was playing the game with him showed regret and a trace of regret on his face, gritted his teeth and said, "One more game. Come on, come on." Then, the two started a new game. For it. Sutinyu blinked his big eyes. So, the head of the household in room 101 is a game fan. If one player plays the game with him, others can come into his house to look for clues. There seems to be nothing wrong with this. Sutinyu stopped caring about the two people playing the game and began to look for clues in the house. This room, compared to the ones I've been to before, is cleaner and tidier. It feels like everything is taken care of in an orderly manner. There's no way you can tell that this is a room where a gamer lives. When Sutinyu saw Qin-Chi go to the bedroom, he walked into the kitchen. In the kitchen of this house, it feels like there are a lot less modern and intelligent machines, such as sensor faucets, dishwashers, microwaves, etc., which are all invisible here. There is even a stove in the corner with several bundles of dry firewood stacked next to it. Sutinyu reached into the stove and could still feel a trace of residual warmth. This stove looks like it has been used all year round and has not been abandoned. Would a young man still use an old-era stove to cook and cook? Sutinyu murmured in her heart, very confused. The young man who was playing games in the living room seemed to be overly obsessed with games. As long as someone played with him, he would let a lot of strangers wander into his house regardless. After Sutinyu walked around the kitchen and found nothing new, he walked towards the bedroom. When Sutinyu entered the bedroom, the feeling of dissonance became even stronger. The bedroom is filled with a light soothing fragrance, exuding a tranquil and peaceful atmosphere. There are various old black and white photos posted on the wall. The only color photo in the middle is a family photo. In the family portrait, a pair of old people are sitting in the middle, with friendly faces. There are 3 men and 1 woman standing on both sides. They should be the children of the old people. Judging from their faces, they are probably between 20 and 40 years old, and the Game Boy in the living room right there. Why do all the clothes in this closet belong to old people? There is indeed a problem. In the bedroom, besides Sutinyu and Qin-Chi, there were 2 other players. The 2 players opened the closet and immediately noticed something was wrong. If the resident of this room is a gamer, it's impossible that he doesn't even have a set of clothes prepared for him. The clothes in the closet are all commonly worn by the elderly. Therefore, the real resident of room 101 should be an old man or a couple of old people. Qin-Chi was flipping through the bedside table and found a household registration book for room 101, but no ID card. Qin-Chi opened it and saw that the head of the household was named Cai Kunhua. She was a woman and widowed. Looking at her date of birth, she was in the 1930s and 1940s. There was a calendar hanging on the wall above the bed. Qin-Chi glanced at the year, which was 2017. In this way, the ages match. Cai Kunhua, the head of the household, should be the old woman in the family photo. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-K. Chapter 278. Qin-Chi handed the household registration book to Sutinyu. The latter looked at it for a few times and after understanding the general information, he was just about to put it into his bag when he was spotted by the sharp eyes of the other 2 players in the bedroom. Wait. What did you take? Sutinyu paused for a moment, and then, with the 2 players staring at her closely, she slowly took away the household registration book and raised a slight smile. A household registration book, the head of the household belongs to an old man. After saying that, Sutinyu put the household registration book into the bag and zipped it up. Just based on what you said, how do we know if you are lying to us? Take out the household registration book. This room, but our teammates went to play games with NPCs to create the opportunity to come in. The two players were still a little suspicious, thinking that Sotinyu had hidden important clues, and wanted to force the latter to hand over his household registration book. Haha, Sotinyu laughed twice and immediately calmed down his expression. No. You. Sotinyu hooked his fingers and said with a teasing look in his eyes, want it? It's simple, just have a fight with me, and I'll give it to you if you win. Qinchi, who was next to Sotinyu, frowned slightly when he heard this. He turned to look at the two players and added in a low voice, you're not fighting her, you're fighting me. This. The two players looked at each other in confusion. At this time, they finally remembered that Sotinyu, one of whom was number 1 on the kill list, and the other who was 5th on the kill list, were both ruthless people. This round is not a hunting dungeon, it is a puzzle dungeon. We need to work together. If you have any clues, wouldn't it be better to share them? Why hide them? Seeing that they refused to be tough, the two players began to persuade. I'm keeping the clues, not hiding them. Sotinyu showed a kind smile that was considerate of everyone. As if she suddenly remembered something, she turned to ask, by the way, Qinchi, it seems that the panel system didn't say anything. If you're not hunting dungeons, you can't kill people, right? Yes, you can kill them. Qinchi stared at the two players and replied calmly. What do you want to do? Wait a minute, we're all friends, friends. Just take your household registration book. When the two players heard this, they immediately panicked. How could they dare to force Sotinyu to hand over his household registration book? Now they were only thinking about how to run out of the bedroom head and tail. That's right. We are all friends. Right, Sotinyu smiled with a friendly face, I will keep the household registration book, is it okay? No problem, no problem. Absolutely no problem. Let's leave first. The two players nodded and hunched over, glancing randomly at the door, fearing that Sotinyu and the others would block the door. After waiting for a few seconds, they saw that Sotinyu and the others made no movement and were still standing where they were, so they hurriedly ran out of the bedroom. After they left, Sotinyu and Qinchi stayed in the bedroom for a while, looking through everything inside and out. After confirming, the only trace of life in the bedroom was the old woman named Cai Kunhua, and no other traces people. The problem arises. As the son of an old woman, it's not surprising that the Game Boy in the living room appears here. But he has an attitude of being obsessed with games. No matter how you look at it, he doesn't look like a filial son who comes back temporarily to honor the elderly. Instead, he comes here to chew on the elderly. Except for the game console installed in the living room, there are few traces of the game man's life, indicating that this man probably does not visit the old woman often. Or, to put it another way, maybe the old woman doesn't want to see her son, who is in his 20s and still obsessed with games. Inflate again. 300,000 is here, 1 million is still far away. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 279. Sotinyu and the others came out of the bedroom, not intending to stay in room 101. When the two were about to walk out of the room, a player broke in from outside and said something in a hurry, come out quickly, the owner of the apartment is here. After saying that, the man walked away without looking back. What's the situation? Go and see. The players in the room were all confused. But when they heard the word owner, they all realized that some important NPC might have appeared. They immediately left without bothering to continue searching for clues in the room. Got room 101. Sotinyu and others also followed the players and left the house together. Hey! Wait for me. The male player who was playing games with Game Boy saw everyone leaving and subconsciously wanted to throw away the game console in his hand and got up to follow. Suddenly, a hand pressed down on the left shoulder of the male player. At some point, the Game Boy also put down the game console. He turned his head and stared directly at the male player. His tone was erratic, like a ghost whispering, "Where are you going? Continue playing games with me." Due to the sudden pressure, the male player who was halfway up was forced to sit down again, which made the bones behind his butt hurt. The male player waved his hand and knocked the game console on the ground, his face irritated. "Why are you playing? I don't want to play now." The Game Boy turned to look at the game console that was knocked out, and stared at the male player again, and his eyes seemed to be a little more gloomy. "You can't go anywhere, play games with me quickly." Let me go." The male player tried hard to break free from the shackles of the Game Boy, but the former gradually discovered that no matter how hard he struggled, the Game Boy was still holding onto his shoulders, and the strength was still increasing little by little. Big. Finally, the male player shouted in pain, "Damn it! Let go! Let go! Pick up the game console, continue to play games with me quickly." The game man hooked the cord of the game console with one foot, picked up the game console, and then stuffed it into the male player's hand. I. The male player began to sweat on his forehead, and gradually realized that something was wrong. The Game Boy was still staring straight at the person with his eyes. His originally lifeless fish eyes were like those of an enraged beast, tainted with a faint scent of blood. Without paying attention, the male gamer met the gamer's eyes. He clearly saw the latter's bloody eyes that were gradually turning red. He was immediately horrified. I'll continue to play the game. You can let me go." As soon as the male player agreed, the Game Boy's bloody eyes returned to normal and became lifeless again. Only when he saw the game console, a flash of crazy fire flashed through. "Come on, keep playing." The male player swallowed and held the game console with trembling fingers. On the TV, a new game interface opens. The male player had just calmed down for a while. At this time, the gamer said quietly again, "If you lose to me, you will always play games with me." What? The male player's eyes widened. "First floor, billiard room." The players gathered here again. When Sutinho came to the scene, he took a quick look and saw the face of a strange man. The man was slender and wearing a decent tuxedo. He looked handsome and dignified. He always had a friendly smile like a breeze on his face. When he saw someone, he said loudly, "Dear new residents of Angel Apartments, on behalf of all the old residents of Angel Apartments, I would like to warmly welcome you. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a bug in a survival game." Author, Kuanke. Chapter 280. Pa Bang Bang. Sutinho applauded directly. Such a passionate and exciting speech, there must be applause here. This applause made other players stunned for a moment, and then they were also led to applaud, and sparse applause rang out. Seeing someone cheering, the smile on the man in the tuxedo's face became even brighter. "Ahem, new residents, if you have any questions, you can ask me now." The man in the tuxedo looked at the players with a modest and courteous attitude. "Owner, what's your last name?" a player asked tentatively. The word master seemed to go directly to the heart of the man in the tuxedo, and he replied kindly with a smile on his face, "My surname is Wen, my first name is Ruojun, and I am 30 years old this year." I couldn't tell. I thought the host was in his 20s, but he was already in his 30s. This landlord who suddenly appeared is different from other former residents of the apartment. His personality can be said to be warm and cheerful. The players asked all kinds of questions, and the host patiently answered them one by one. There was no trace of impatience on his face, and he acted like a proper gentleman. Sutinho's eyes rolled slightly. When the host finished answering the previous question, he immediately got in front of all the players and asked, "Why don't the neighbors come out before 12 noon? When I first came here, I thought no one was living in the room. As soon as this question was asked, the players who realized that Sotingyu had asked the key point all at once silently shut their mouths and waited for the poster's reply. There was nothing unusual on the face of the host, and the smile remained. He paused for a few seconds, and then slowly answered, "The old residents of the apartment may be too tired at night, so they don't like to wake up too early during the day, and they don't like to have people around. Feel free to disturb me, you just get used to it." Too tired at night? Sotingyu quickly captured the most crucial sentence. Is this a metaphor for what will happen in Angel apartment at night? Sotingyu was not the only one who could think of this level. Players also thought of it one after another, and they all had different expressions on their faces. Slowly, the originally relaxed atmosphere at the scene became dull. After the poster finished answering this question, he lowered his head and looked at his watch. Time flies so fast, it's almost 18 o'clock. When he looked up again, there was a real smile in the landlord's eyes. He said, "It's time for me to go home. My brother is still waiting for me in the house to cook. Goodbye, new residents. I wish you the best, a pleasant stay." The host bent down slightly, bowed, and then left the billiard room. 18 o'clock, Sotingyu muttered, feeling that time passed a bit fast. It seemed that she had not done anything. Half a day passed in a flash. After the poster left, the long-haired man living in room 103 reminded, 18 o'clock is coming soon, which means that the night of the first day of the dungeon is coming. You should go back to your room first. It is best to go back to yourselves. The room where we started? Huh? One room per person. Can't the two of us be together? The room is quite big anyway. The two players of the young couple were the first to have trouble, and asked in confusion. In this regard, the long-haired man did not say much. You two can also stay in the same room. This is your freedom. After saying that, the long-haired man turned and left, walking in a hurry, as if he was worried that he would not be able to return in time. Go to the room. Seeing this, the other players had the attitude of I'd rather believe that they have it than that they don't have it. They didn't dare to waste any more time and left the billiard room one by one. In the end, only Sotingyu, Chinchi, Gucci, and Fatty were left in the billiard room. Today I'm adding 2 more updates. Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 281. Finally, they had the opportunity to gather together. After the 4 of them looked at each other, they took turns talking about the information they had discovered without any nonsense. Then, the 4 people integrated the known information. Known NPC resident information of Angel apartment. First floor. Room 101. NPC has appeared, Game Boy. Doubtful points, there are few smart home machines in the house, there are daily necessities for the elderly, and an old woman named Cai Kunhua NPC did not appear. Second floor. Room 205. NPC has appeared, Drunk Yu Yang. Doubtful point, there is a little boy's school certificate in the house, but a little boy named Yu Xiao's NPC did not appear. Room 206. NPC has appeared, a couple who are about to divorce, the man is named Mida Tao, and the woman is a woman in high-end clothing. Doubtful point, a little girl named Mia NPC did not appear. Third floor. Room 302, not open. Room 303. NPC has appeared, a couple in love. Suspicion, some players have seen this couple dismembering their bodies. Fourth floor. Room 401, not open. Room 406. NPC has appeared, Lin Jiaoxiao, who calls herself the eldest lady. Suspicious points, there are a large number of books and manuscripts stored in the house, and there are young men's products. A young man who loves writing did not appear. Fifth floor. Room 505. NPC has appeared, the host in a tuxedo, named Wenruo Jun. Suspicious point, the poster's brother did not show up. After the four people finished exchanging information, the bell rang again. Sutingyu caught a glimpse of several closed windows in the billiard room. At some point, it was pitch black outside the windows, as if the sky outside had turned dark and there was no light at all. It's about time, it's getting dark. Noticing that he was still wearing a black windbreaker, he took out a watch from the pocket of the windbreaker, looked at the time on it, and spoke softly. "Boss, where did you get this watch? Is it a game item?" The fat man scratched his head and asked. "It was taken out from the room at the beginning. The time of this round of copy is a bit strange. It is already 8 o'clock in the evening." Gucci raised his hand to let the other three people see the time on their watches clearly. The fat man's mind was filled with questions. Why is it already 8 o'clock? It feels like we only chatted for less than half an hour. In this round of dungeons, time is not important, the ringtone is the key. Qin suddenly spoke. "Yes, the bell rang just now." Sutingyu turned around and looked around. In addition to feeling that it was dark outside, the sensor lights in the billiard room were lighting up normally. Nothing seems to have changed. But the fat man was not as calm as the other three. He felt a little flustered. "It's already night, how about we go back to the room first?" Yegu nodded. "Just go back according to the room number where you started." "Ah, are we really going to separate? One room per person?" The fat man looked confused and a little panicked. Sutingyu clenched her little fists and encouraged the fat man. "Fat man, don't be a coward. Guju is next door to you. If there is any danger, just run to Guju." "That's right," Fatty suddenly realized. Gucci glanced at the two of them and did not refute, just said, "It's time to go." Yes, let's go." The fat man was the first to rush out of the billiard room, but when he was about to kick the ball, he suddenly braked and stopped in place. Then, he waited for Sutingyu and the other three people behind him to come over, and then he walked out of the billiard room with confidence. The four of them first came to room 203, which was the room belonging to the fat man. "Fat man, you have to remember something." Sutingyu waved her paw and watched as Fatty opened the door and walked in. She said, "No matter what sound you hear at night, don't pay attention to it. If it's outside the door, let alone open the door." When he was about to close the door, the fat man nodded repeatedly. "Oh, okay, I will remember it." Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuan-K. Chapter 282. Sutingyu and the others watched the door of room 203 close completely before leaving. "Guju, your room is right here, why don't you go in first?" Sutingyu pointed to room 202, which was a short walk away. "No, I'll send you back first." Gucci refused. "Tisk tisk. Send us?" Sutingyu snorted dissatisfiedly in his heart. She really wanted to ask Gugu, "Do you have the guts to say it again with your conscience to make sure she is not the one by the way?" But Sutingyu didn't say anything. Because, why bother? Why put your face to it when you know you will be slapped in the face? When they got to the third floor, Qin also didn't go back to his room. Obviously, he wanted to send Sutingyu back first. As a result, Sutingyu was inexplicably sent to the door of room 404 by two people, unable to even go in. "See you tomorrow." Sutingyu waved her paw and closed the door of room 404. Qin and Gucci were the only two people left in the corridor. Qin turned and walked towards the stairs, with Gucci following behind. After arriving on the third floor, when Qin was about to go back to his room, he found that Gucci was also following him and paused. "Your room is downstairs." Qin's voice was calm, as if he was stating something. "The implication is, don't follow me." Gucci seemed to have no clue that Qin was chasing people away, and nodded, "Well, I'll watch you go back." Qin frowned slightly, turned his head and glanced at Gucci. "No need. Don't delay, It's almost 9 o'clock. Gucci looked down at the time on his watch, then looked up again. His tone was normal. Qin couldn't understand. Gucci's attitude towards him seemed to have changed. Why? It's up to you. Qin didn't understand and didn't want to explore too much. He turned around and walked to the door of room 301 in a few steps. Gucci stood at the edge of the stairs. He watched Qin open the door, walk in, close the door again, and then turn around and leave the third floor. Really, don't remember? When Gucci stepped down a few steps, he paused slightly. He lowered his head and suddenly chuckled. But I can't forget it. Without that innocent promise, Guju would have ceased to exist long ago and would never be able to come back. He really didn't want to go back to this disgusting and dirty world. In room 203. Gulu. In the kitchen, the hot water kettle was plugged in, the water inside was boiling, and steam was rising above the hot water kettle. After the water boiled, the fat man reached out to hold the handle of the hot water bottle and poured the hot water into the barrel of instant noodles beside him. After the hot water was almost poured, the fat man put down the hot water bottle and closed the paper lid of the bucket of instant noodles. The fat man held the edge of the bucket of instant noodles with both hands and walked towards the coffee table in the living room. The instant noodles were placed on the coffee table. The fat man returned to the kitchen and took out a pair of chopsticks and a spoon from the disinfection cabinet. Returning to the living room, the fat man pressed his chopsticks and spoon on the paper cover of instant noodles, then sat down on the sofa behind him, reached for the TV remote control, and turned on the TV. Fatty turned to a channel that was playing Animal World, and put down the remote control. While waiting for the instant noodles to be ready, he watched Animal World, occasionally making various eyes or sounds of surprise. Hiss. Wow. Tisk tisk. 15 minutes later, the instant noodles were ready, and the fat man ate the hot and fragrant instant noodles while staring at the various jumping animals on the TV. After an unknown amount of time, the hour hand of the clock on the wall in the living room slowly pointed to the number 10. Knock knock. At this time, the door of room 203 was suddenly knocked from outside. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Being a Bug in a Survival Game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 283. Wow, this is so cute. The person who answered the knock on the door was Fatty's silly aunt to laugh. On the TV, the sound of some cute little animal also came to the direction of the door. For a moment, the knocking outside the door disappeared like fragments. Suck, suck, suck. After the fat man finished the last bite of noodles in the instant noodle bucket, he let out a small burp, then took out a bottle of orange juice from the inventory, inserted the straw, leaned against the sofa, and drank bing bing. Cool orange juice. After sitting for a while, the fat man suddenly felt something. He quickly stood up and walked quickly to the bathroom in the bedroom. Did he tick? When the hour hand pointed to the number 11, outside the door that had been silent for a long time, the heavy knock of bang 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 sounded again. Moreover, the knock on the door was louder and more violent than the last time, like an angry child, trying to alert the adults inside. But at this time, in room number 203, the door, bedroom door and bathroom door were closed. In the innermost bathroom, the fat man settled the 3 urgent matters comfortably. He looked cheerful and relaxed, turned on the faucet of the wash basin, put his hands in it and rubbed them on the left and right. In the fat man's ears, there was always the sound of running water, which was very pleasant to the ear. Calabash baby, 7 melons on a vine. The fat man even suddenly became interested and hummed a ditty casually, ding dong, dang dang dang. Ding dong, dang dang dang. The violent knocking lasted for a minute, as if something outside was tired of knocking and had completely given up knocking on the door. But when the fat man came out, he found nothing. However, when the fat man walked to the living room and saw the time displayed on the wall clock, he said, "Ouch! It's so late, it's time to go to bed," the fat man muttered, turned off the TV, and turned back to his room. That night, there was a strange knock on the door of almost every player's room. From the sudden knock at the beginning, to the fierce bang 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 at the end, it seemed like something was angry and wanted to break in instantly. When the hour and minute hands point to the top number 12 at the same time, midnight is here. A string of clear and ethereal bells rang throughout the Angel apartment, instantly waking up many players who were still asleep or in a light sleep. In room number 404, Sotinyu was sitting on the bed, wrapped in a quilt, leaving only her small head exposed. A pair of big, watery eyes looked around curiously and excitedly, especially the closed bedroom and bathroom doors. "Friends at night, will you come to visit?" Sotinyu waited, and even began to twist her small body from side to side like a roly-poly. In the quilt, the Liu stick shrunk to 10 centimeters had long been held in Sotinyu's hand, ready to go. Knock knock. At this time, there was a knock on the door. Is there something knocking on the door? Sotinyu immediately pricked up his ears. Bang bang bang, the thing outside the door, after knocking for a few minutes, seemed to lose its patience and left. "Hey, why don't you come in?" Sotinyu pouted, looking a little disappointed. Almost half an hour after the knock on the door disappeared, a slight click of the door opened. In the bedroom, Sotinyu blinked his big eyes in confusion. It seems that is the door open? If Sotinyu remembered correctly, she seemed to have locked it, right? What is this? So you don't have martial ethics? Being a bug in a survival game. Author, Kuanke. Chapter 284. Sotinyu stared at the bedroom door, and outside the door, there was the sound of deep and shallow footsteps, which seemed to be accompanied by the sound of a cane falling to the ground. What's outside? Sotinyu's heart was itching unbearably. She really wanted to open the door and take a look, but she was afraid of scaring away her friends outside, so she could only observe first. So, Sotinyu raised her little ears and pressed them against the wall near the living room, eavesdropping on what was going on outside. Rustling, rustling. It seems like I'm picking up something. Sotinyu nodded. Whoosh 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 whoosh. It seems to be sweeping the floor. Sotinyu was just about to nod his head when he froze. Sweep the floor. Sotinyu listened carefully for a while, and it really sounded like sweeping the floor. Just when Sotinyu was confused, the door handle of the bedroom door was twisted. With quick eyes and quick hands, Sotinyu quickly lay down on the bed, with his head facing the door and covered with the quilt. Creak. The bedroom door was pushed open, the lights in the living room were turned on, and a shadow extended from outside the door to the bedroom floor. Sotinyu left a small hole for peeping and ventilation, and when she glanced out, she caught sight of an extra shadow on the bedroom floor. The shadow moved slowly and completely entered the bedroom. The meteor rod held by Sotinyu's right hand began to grow little by little. But the shadow's movement did not come to the bed, but to the bathroom. Sotinyu blinked his big confused eyes, and the meteor rod in his hand was forced to stop growing, and then slowly shrunk back. The bathroom door was opened, the shadow walked in, and then the sound of running water sounded inside. Ah! Did you come to her place to take a bath? Sotinyu was thinking wildly. In less than a minute, Shadow walked out of the bathroom, seemingly holding something. When Sotinyu quickly glanced at what it was holding, his expression was startled again. Mop, mop. Still wet. Under Sotinyu's eyes, the shadow began to mop the floor in the bedroom. At this time, Sotinyu was completely confused. Raiding other people's homes at night, Not robbing someone of their property, robbing someone of their sex, or simply killing someone, just to help with housework? It seems like you don't have to pay wages yet. Damn it. Such a friend. Please give her a dozen. Sutinyu carefully pulled back some of the quilt, trying to see clearly the selfless face of this friend. Ahem. At this time, Shadow suddenly bent over and coughed a few times, and even coughed up a bit of a heartbreaking feeling. And Sutinyu also successfully caught a glimpse of this friend. The moment he saw it clearly, Sutinyu's eyes widened in slight surprise. It's the old woman in the family photo in room 101, her name seems to be Cai Kunhua. Cai Kunhua was wearing ordinary clothes for the elderly. Her hair was slightly messy, with a few strands of gray hair hanging down by her ears. On the chest in front of her, a large dark red blood stain stained the gray-blue shirt. There was a wound shape in the middle, as if something had been stabbed in, but the murder weapon had long since disappeared. Cai Kunhua coughed for a while, then slowly straightened up, holding a cane in one hand and a mop in the other. After mopping the bedroom floor, she went out to the living room to mop the floor again. After mopping the floor, Cai Kunhua came back with the mop, and the sound of water came from the bathroom again. After a while, the sound of water stopped. Cai Kunhua walked out of the bedroom slowly, leaning on a cane, and walked out of room 404. Click. After Sutinyu heard the sound of the door closing, she lifted the quilt and got out of bed to put on her shoes. After walking out of the bedroom, Sutinyu turned to look at the living room. Some of the ornaments and supplies she had messed up had been rearranged back to their original places. There were still wet stains on the floor. In the trash can in the living room, Sutinyu had eaten the bread tonight and threw the packaging bag in it, but now it was gone.